I had a totally normal reading distribution this month. Please do not go check my Goodreads and notice that I did not finish a single book after April 12th. I would just like to say I blame the fact that both the NHL and NBA playoffs have been on. The Canucks are in the second round. Like, I've lived in Vancouver my entire life. I was doing that and watching Shogun instead of reading, and I started like a 1,000-page book. So, but you know what? I read enough books in the first 12 days that this wrap-up is still not depressing, so we're fine. Okay, so the start of this month was me still on the vacation where I was going hard and binging Vorkosigan. So, if you're sick of hearing about Vorkosigan, if you've watched my last two videos, that's tough. There's going to be one more, and it's this one. After this, you probably won't hear about it from me for like a while. So, I hope you're not sick of it. I hope you're sick of it in a fine, I'll read it way, and not like a actually sick of it. But the first thing I read was Borders of Infinity, which was a collection of 3 novellas that I was told to read before Brother in Arms, which I think I agree with. I agree with that recommendation. In hindsight, this collection was excellent. It was only 3 novellas, so collection might be the wrong term. I thought the first and third were brilliant. The second one just was like a little weird. There was like a section where I was kind of like, why? But you know what? I actually still enjoyed the second one quite a bit. So I gave that a 9.1 out of 10. It was excellent, man. Like the first and third novellas were so good. And impactful. It's like, I actually think the third novella in this is more impactful, like, and the first than the last, like, full novel, which was Setaganda. Which I think it might be the weird thing going off with, like, the writing order, but very much is not like side quest things. Like, all 3 of the novellas were actually quite plot relevant, because actually the second one, despite having a weird thing, was also arguably more relevant for the plot of the 3 books that came after it. Speaking of the 3 books that came after it, Brother in Arms is the next one of those. It was amazing. I love Brother in Arms. It was I gave it 9.3 out of 10. It was my favorite Vorkosigan book to date. By that, yes, this is me in the future. This is a cut. By that, to clarify, I don't mean it's my favorite Vorkosigan book now. I mean, when I read it, I liked it more than all the ones before it. But you're about to hear about the 2 after it, so just incredibly tightly plotted, compelling, Miles at his best, and like there's an entire just idea around this. Louise Bujold is a madwoman for coming up with this and making it work, and then she does it even better in Mirror Dance. Mirror Dance is about twice as long as all the previous novels in this series. Mirror Dance is Mirror Dance and Memory were my standout books of the month. Those were the next 2. It's called Mirror Dance and Memory. Memory is my current frontrunner for Book of the Year. I've seen it described as the, like, nothing happens, but it's the character book. I disagree. Like, the character stuff is incredible in Memory, but I actually think it's also incredibly tightly plotted. It's maybe, like, the subject of the plot is a little quieter, but it's pretty, like, consistently eventful throughout the book, in my opinion. Mirror Dance's pacing is a little weird. The start of Mirror Dance, I gave Mirror Dance a 9.4 and Memory a 9.5. It's possible over time that Mirror Dance will move up above Memory. I think, like, the first third of this book, I was like, this is trending at like a 9.7, 9.8. Then the pacing got a little weird, and then it still ended up being completely brilliant. I think the first third is still my favorite third. And I think this actually, like, is a novel that might have, like, some long-term impact on, like, who I am. It's got a plot line that it has a plot that I can't talk about because it's massive spoilers. That was just incredible, incredibly thought-provoking, and incredibly compelling at the same time. So those are the books I successfully read. This is gonna be a short wrap-up. I did DNF a book. I DNF'd the Illiad by Homer. Got this nice edition in a random bookstore on not Galliano. There's a little island. It's the one next to Galliano. Really nice edition. I tried other translations. Like there's a Reddit post with like all the translations, and I picked other ones that like I thought I liked the most. Just don't like the book. I found it incredibly repetitive. Like really, really repetitive. I have an example of this that when I thought I might do a salty review about this, I had it written down, but then I just don't care enough to do salty reviews generally. Like salty video reviews, they're just not fun to film. Well, they're sometimes a little cathartic to film, but whatever. And it's just like, what's his name? Agamemnon being like, I will give this list of things to Achilles, and he lists out like 20 things, and then but he's like, Odysseus, go take this list of things to Achilles. And Odysseus goes, he's willing to bear, and he lists out all 20 things again, like verbatim, exactly the same as Agamemnon did. And I'm like, it's just incredibly unnecessary. Like it's so inefficient, in terms of like story per word, and it's a huge amount of action. Like it's actually a super event in that book. I hate the action. I find it some of the most boring action I've ever read. Like, it's so, in my opinion, I mean, who am I to criticize the Illiad? It's one of the most culturally impactful novels in the history of the world. Like, it's a novel that, truly, like, if it'd never been written, major things about the world would be different. Like, it'd have a massive historical butterfly effect, because, like, tons of like hugely impactful historical figures were directly influenced by that, like Alexander the Great. So who am I to be like, it doesn't work? Like, it's one of the most successful books of all time. But personally, I found the action incredibly dull and like incredibly abundant, where it's just going through like listing these people and trying to tell me who they are, and then just like describing it's just like, and then this dude who was like a farmer growing up here stabbed this person, and the spear went through his flesh and went on his femur and bended, and then he threw that spear and he hit the charioteer, and it went through his like his left eye or something, and it's just like I don't care about any of these people. When it focused more on like the Achilles stuff, it was like the things that made it interesting was that this was written by someone who lived thousands of years ago, and it's interesting to see their perspective and how it's so different from the perspective of today. So like from that perspective, it's interesting to read, but from the perspective of like I'm trying to read a story, I found the entire style and way it presents the story just like incredibly dull. So eventually I gave up on it and DNF'd it. Which is sad because this redemption is pretty cool. Yeah. Anyway. So the streak of me being all positive reviews is over. It was a pretty long streak. Like if I just look at my Goodreads, part of it's because I read like a bajillion Vorkosigan novels in a row. But like we had Long Price Quartet, we had Disquiet Gods, we had some Le Guin, like Paper Menagerie, Spear Cuts Through Water, Children of Time. Like it goes back a long time. I guess I gave the Silmarillion 3 stars, but whatever. This, had I finished it would have been out of 10, like probably. Let's look at my scale. I know I'm looking at this while I'm filming, but I've never claimed to have great production values. I've got my English descriptions of all my yeah, I would have given it like a 3 out of 10, probably. So, which is tough because it's like one of the most impactful novels ever written. Anyway, I also read a bunch of The Lonesome Crown by Brian Lee Durfee, a book that's been on the docket for way too long. I spent the start of this book thinking 2 things. 1, holy crap, I do not remember what happened in The Blackest Heart. And 2, damn, this is really good. I started off this book enjoying every single perspective. I do have to say, as a warning for next month, since that start, I have been getting slowly lower on this book. So negative Jake. Now, that being said, Durfee is too good at too many things, I think, for this to fall below, like, I liked it. But I would say the last 250 pages, well, I've liked the last 100 more than the previous. There was, like, a stretch from, like, page 300 to 500, maybe 300 to 550, where I have quite a few complaints about the Lonesome Crown. I just also have quite a few things where I'm like, that was sick. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that turns out. But it's been on the TBR way too long, so it's good that I'm finally getting to it. It's taking me a long time to read. It's a really long book, and I've been obsessively paying attention to the Vancouver Canucks. Everyone, please wish them good vibes and hope that Connor McDavid does not score on them 617 times. Also, just to avoid the monkey's paw, can we please hope that Connor McDavid does not, set up teammates to score easy goals 617 times, because that's actually kind of more his thing right now. So just, like, please no score. Actually, if you guys could wish that Draisaitl doesn't do that either, or just actually the Oilers generally, I would take any Vancouver Canucks support that could possibly exist, because they're gonna need it, and we just want one Stanley Cup. Okay, we just want one, please. I would really appreciate it. Sorry, Evie, about the Illiad. Do you want me to send you this copy? It's pretty nice, and I don't want it. I will, like, let me know, Evie, in on Discord, if you want me to send you this copy of the Illiad. Also, if you're not Evie, Vorkosigan, and you can probably tell me I'm uncultured for not liking the Illiad or something. Or, even better, if you also are like, yes, I didn't like the Illiad either, I would appreciate your support. If you had Lonesome Crown, let me know what you thought. Right now, it's, I would say, disappointing me, but it's disappointing me because, like, it does a lot of things well. Books that I think are just, like, I shouldn't say bad. Books that I just dislike, like that when I'm reading, I'm just like, this is bad. I don't usually be like, this is really disappointing. I'm just like, this is bad. I feel like for a book to be disappointing, I have to, like, quite like a good amount of it, but have enough that I don't like to make me disappointed. So, if you don't want to disappoint people, just set the expectations low. That's the moral of this story. Bye, everyone.